like a ghost. I just show up. It's bizarre. We're live. We're good. I screwed up a lot of stuff. I should have fixed a bunch of settings and I didn't, and that's probably bad. I don't know if I can change them now. I'm going to try to do that. I think it's a bad idea. A super bad idea. Really, really, really bad idea, but I'm doing it so far. That's nice. I don't know how that works. Let me get over here. You know, no one said we were perfect, right? I mean, that's obvious. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Can I do this now? If I can, that'll be sweet. Bam. Save. Okay. All right. Well, that's probably the worst way to open a show ever. I feel like that was pretty impressive that I did that. Let me just get some things in order before we get started. How are you tonight? How are you? Let's see if we get this. I don't like this little, what is it, pop thing? Always looks kind of there. Does that look better? Does it look more straight? I don't really like it. I don't think it does any good, but oh, not good. I screwed something up. Well, it's starting off well. Let me go check something real quick and get back. Just a second. You guys, I don't know. I'm thinking about, can I do this? I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I don't know. Well, you just stay here. I'll be back. All right. Well, has this been the worst 3 minutes in live stream history? No, I've seen a lot of live streams and there's been a lot worse. It makes me laugh because, how do I put it? It makes me laugh because I was pretty prepared tonight. I started looking into stuff at like 8. So I had a good hour and I just bungled it. I want to get like my TV, my monitor is like right here and you're right there. And I want to make eye contact, but it's hard because I have to look up like this. And then when I'm reading and stuff, I'm looking down. I'm not afraid to look in the camera, but it's like, anyway, what do we have going on tonight? Let me check the settings. Let me see if I know we've got a great camera. You know, that's the other thing is the camera looks beautiful. I mean, just gorgeous. And then when excuse me, the camera looks gorgeous. And then when I see the replay on YouTube, it's terrible. I could upgrade our system to a higher level of stream, a higher quality, but it's like, I got 7 subscribers, I think 8 subscribers, and I got nobody watching, so I don't feel like that's the right move at this time. However, down the road, that's what we'll do. So did I do this? Did I do the how are you? How are you today? How are you tonight? How are you next year when you watch this? For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Schenk, and I am a real estate broker in South St. Louis, Missouri, St. Louis County, specifically Afton, and then that's where our office is. And then I work mostly St. Louis County, Jefferson County, St. Louis City, and St. Louis County. Yeah. So then Oh, did I do St. Charles? Anyway. And I got interested in I got my MBA a while back, a couple years, maybe a decade. And I got interested in employment issues. I don't like HR, like employee HR. That stuff doesn't really interest me. I got more interested into this idea that, jobs are they've gotten to the point where they're kind of absurd. They don't make a whole lot of sense. And so my channel, Our Nature of Employment, kind of highlights these absurdities. And then we talk about stuff that's, that companies do. You spend an amazing amount of time of your life at your employer's behest. Now, I'm not anti-employer. I'm not anti-employee. I wouldn't say I'm down the road. I think my main statement is if you go to work, you should be compensated if you're doing work. And then, you have to do the work, though. You can't go and steal time from your employer. You can't sandbag the job. You can't do that kind of stuff. But then, on the other hand, I think that the employer should be able to pay you. I believe that the employment system is just so rigged. The laws have been written based on, employment from the 1920s and earlier in the United States. I mean, I don't know. There was a while back, there was the law in California that stopped freelancers from being able to freelance in the state without some sort of compensation of some kind. It was really ridiculous. I mean, really, really overreach. I mean, you'd think that the progressive California would come up with, laws that would make sense, but, we've obviously, that's been proven ridiculous. So I've just enjoyed the absurdity of it. Now, I'm in a unique position because I own my own business. If my clients watch my videos, my live streams, and they don't like what I'm saying, they won't hire me. Okay. That's a real possibility. But last year I had my worst year ever in real estate, and I was not on a live stream. And, quite frankly, if someone doesn't like me because of my views on employment or anything like that, so be it. I feel like I've overcome the failure stage of my business as far as at this point, I failed once, I failed a couple of times. I'm not afraid of it anymore. It's not, I don't go to bed at night like, oh my God, I'm going to fail, because I've not done a very good job at times. And, you get over it. You keep fighting. One of the more interesting aspects about my business versus others is that I finance my business myself through the operations. That is, if I sell a house, I have money to pay other people. If I don't sell a house, if I don't help buyers, I don't have any money. And that's the way it is. Every night I go to bed essentially unemployed unless someone comes and wants to buy or sell a house. That's my life. You say, well, that sucks. You should have benefits. You should have retirement. You should have all. Yes. Those things come out of the commission check. I have to put money aside for my retirement. I have to put money aside for everything. And because of that, I get the joy of kind of setting my own rules, setting my own work time. And that's the allure to the real estate world. Now, again, you can choose to not work, and you can choose to work very hard, and you may not be compensated for your work. It's very fascinating to be in a job such as this, where it's 100% commission. There are better jobs, and this is something that I don't think many people tell you. There are better jobs for someone that's a good salesperson. A good salesperson may not want to be in real estate. If you're a pharmaceutical salesperson, if you're a B2B salesperson, you may make a salary and commission. So this is not the highest rung of the ladder in sales. A lot of people I've seen that have a lot of success have been in those great jobs, have been good at what they do, and either the industry kind of left them or something, but then they have to move on. They move into real estate, and they tend to do pretty well. I remember one woman who used to sell like printing machines, like $1 million printing machines. And after a while, like no one's printing anything anymore, it seems. And so she, the whole industry kind of disappeared. And so she moved into real estate, and she does very, very well for herself. And then there's people that come in and do terribly. I don't know. I think I'm average. I think I've done average, maybe even a little below average. But, some of this has to do with my personality. Some of it has to do with my sales. etc. So anyway, that's what I do during the day. Now that is very, very different than when I hear on the news, for example, that there's a fight for minimum wage, there's a fight for 15, a fight for whatever number you want to have it. It doesn't really affect me because I'm a commissioned salesperson. That's my job. I get paid when I sell houses, and I get paid when I help people buy houses. This is the only time I get paid. When you hear stories about how how employers are needing more employees and they're offering benefit packages and they're sweet and wonderful, that doesn't happen in my business as a commissioned agent. When you hear about when your friend at the your best friend comes up to you and says, "Hey man, I got a raise at work." That's fantastic. I don't get a raise at work for what I do. The only time, I really get a raise is if I sell more houses. So I feel like I'm in a unique position to discuss these things. One, I don't have to be afraid of large corporations like Walmart, Amazon, Twitter. Well, not Twitter is a little bit different. Google. I don't have to worry about those people. They're not in my league. We're not playing in the same pool. I don't have to worry about going back to a job like a 9-to-5 or something. That's not going to happen. This is the lot I've cast. And so I feel like I'm allowed to talk about these employment issues because someone has to. This has gotten really weird in the United States. I think on both sides, on the employer and employee sides, there are very, very weird things that happen at work that should never happen. And people are caught up. One of the stories we might get to tonight, maybe tomorrow, a young fella's working at a grocery store. Okay. He's bagging groceries, or he's working as a cashier. He's making maybe minimum wage. Okay. His coworker is being assaulted by a man. Okay. That's angry about a bill. He goes over there just to see if he can, he's not over there trying to cause any issues. Guy punches him and knocks him out. Okay. Why should he have to go to work to get knocked out at his job? What in the world? How is that, like on a human level, decent and fair and reasonable? Employees get, injured and killed and all this stuff for what? You only get one life. You only get one life. And to have it be affected negatively by your work environment is just, it seems ridiculous on the surface. It seems ridiculous. Everyone I talk to, they always have something that irritates them, like just really gets under their skin. For instance, I had an uncle that worked at like Ford in management, and I think he was like 60 years old, and he was like a year away from retirement, and they fired him. And he was convinced that they fired him because they didn't want to pay his retirement. He's convinced of that. He went to his grave believing that. Okay. That's gross, right? That's gross. And we see in the United States, with no offense intended towards any population that has come over here on these work visas, but these large corporations making billions and billions of dollars have petitioned the federal government to have special carve-outs for employers to bring over employees to take the jobs of Americans, clearly, and they pay these people less. They say, here's how it has to go in immigration. It says you have to have a job you have to prove that no one else will do it. And then if you can do that, then you can bring over these people to work these jobs. And they're basically indentured servants. And that's the other thing that I find miserable about work in the United States in this day and age. It's a type of indentured servitude. We've seen it with one of the more recent, let's say, things. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube, but it's to the point where you're being forced to make medical choices or lose your job. That is insane. That is not the sign of a strong, smart, society with a lot of vitality, one that's growing, one that's doing better. No, in fact, it's moving backwards. A long time ago, the Swedes had this company called Volvo, right? And the government of Sweden they were like, we're going to do a 4-day work week or something like that. And the auto manufacturer, Volvo, said, please don't do that. It's not going to work. We're in a competitive market in the rest of the world. And if you do this, we can't afford to be in business. We will be out of business and we will have to sell. So the Swedish government did what most governments did and said, well, we don't care. This seems like a good idea. So we're doing it. So they did it. And then, Volvo got bought out by Ford. And at some point it got bought out by somebody else. I think Tata Motors is behind it now, but I'm not certain. But the point is that even when you try to do something good for the employees, I mean, obviously working, 4 days a week would be great. But it does have world repercussions. Just because we don't do something doesn't mean somebody else in another country won't. And so that's another problem. Like, for instance, and I don't mean to be rambling too much, but let's just talk about artificial intelligence. Okay. Whether or not the United States wants to have anything to do with artificial intelligence, it's coming. The Chinese and everybody else are working on it. Okay. So it's either a question, do you be a market leader or do you sit back? It's the worst question in science. I mean, when you can clone cells, when you can affect DNA, when you can do these things, okay? Do you want to be the world's leader or do you want to be somebody that's sitting behind due to ethical considerations? Now, I think ethical considerations are wonderful. I think that ethical situations in work happen all the time. So there's just all these questions about employment that I've never really gotten answers to. And I started this channel specifically for that. So like, if you've had a bad day at work, like, what's bad about your day? What happened? That's something I'd be interested in. If you think that, if you think that you should be paid more for the job you do, maybe that's it. Now, one of the fascinating things about my job is I can work many, many hours in a row and never get paid. I can show up to 200, 300 houses to someone over a course of years, and they could decide all of a sudden that they're not interested in buying a house. All that time I'm eating. Now, some people say, John, well, you're a real estate agent. You should expect to eat time. Well, let me ask you this. When you go to your job, do you expect to eat time? Does the employer expect you to eat it? I mean, I don't think so. Now, you look at some jobs and they kind of exploit their workforce by, putting you on a salary and then making you work 70 hours a week. Well, that's dicey. So I'm not for that uncommon in an organization. I'm not for that uncompensated time. This is the job I have. So this is what I know and what I understand. Another fascinating thing with regards to my channel is this idea that I have that different industries have different policies, practices, cultures, and they would not make sense in other cultures, other organizations, other industries. Let's take one example. When I go on a listing call and I give the seller I'll give them my commission splits. I'll tell them what I need to sell the house. And they'll do one of two things. They'll do a number of things. One, they'll say, oh, that's ridiculous. That's way too expensive. I'll use someone else. So they go try to find someone who costs less. They will ask me if I can cut my commission. And it goes on and on and on from there. I've lost many jobs because someone doesn't want to pay a commission, but they want me to sell their house, basically work for free. The seller does not care. The seller does not care if I don't have health insurance. The seller does not care anything about me. They just want their house sold. And I get that. I understand. But let's flip that around. Let's go into the medical industry. Okay. When's the last time you've ever gone to a doctor and spoken to the doctor directly and said, hey, man, this surgery is way too expensive. Okay. I'd like to see if there's something you could do here about the price. Okay. Well, why is it that it's okay in the medical field, but why is it not okay in the medical field, but it's totally okay as a real estate agent? It's because of the way the business is set up. We have assigned almost a messiah complex to doctors. They can do no wrong. No doctor can do anything wrong. No, even if they do really horrible things, if they leave like surgical tools inside someone's stomach, that's still a doctor, and therefore in our society they should be treated better. But if you're a lowly real estate agent, I say you're an idiot. You don't deserve any of this stuff, and I'm going to just rake you across the coals. So I think that's a fascinating point of employment. Oftentimes, I'm curious as to, like in a construction job. Okay, we want to have more female representation in the trades. Can women do the work that men can? Sure, I have nothing against that. But in moving that just a little bit, like the police academies have had to change their policies because of different groups and the perceptions and the negative perceptions that persist that they fall into. It's a very fascinating thing. And then finally, we work and we work and we work and we work. And I don't know what the motivation is at times. I mean, stock options, a lot of money, but we're so busy working, we're not able to spend that money. We're always working. And to me, it's like at the end of the day, if I die tomorrow, was it worth it? Was it worth it for me to miss my kids' baseball games? Was it worth it to miss my wife wanted to go out to dinner and I couldn't because I was working? Was it worth my parents are dying in a different state and I didn't even bother to go see them because I was busy working? And we didn't go on vacations. We didn't, was it all worth it? Like, why am I putting my life, why am I giving my life to my employer who doesn't give a damn about me? And then one day I'm just going to die. Like, these are the things that I think about. I know maybe it's a dark space, but this is why I could never be a 9-to-5er. This is why I could never be a salary. If my boss told me I should do something unethical, I would go tell him to pound sand. No, I'm not going to do something unethical. And then on the other side, I don't want a virtue signal to get a better job. In theory, I could be part of the credential class. That is the class that has the credentials and that allows them to move forward in life. I have my MBA. Okay. I have my real estate license. I have an executive master. I have 2 master's degrees. Okay. If we want to play the credential class game, I guess I could play it, but it's just never been one that I want. And where we're at now as a society is what are your skills versus what are your credentials? Just earning a credential doesn't give you valuable skills in the workforce. That's just from experience. I can tell you that right now. I follow an organization very, very closely because it's a not-for-profit. And I always laugh that, the not-for-profit, the CEO is making over 6 figures. I know what their job is. I'm not sure they know what their job is, but it's funny to watch. And then what's fascinating to me is in that organization, when you think of non-for-profit, you think that they wouldn't do anything evil or bad. And then you watch them do it and you're like, man, I didn't see that coming. So I also enjoy watching the nonprofit sector because they're just as crazy as anywhere else. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. The articles today, we're going to go over them real quick. We're going to talk about 2 things. One, we're going to talk about a good boss and what that means. And the second thing we're going to talk about is an unfortunate event we had on our live stream for our last live stream. I believe it was on Saturday night. Yes, it was on Saturday night, and it was just bad. And we'll go over that, and I will apologize for that. And then what we'll do most likely is we're going to talk about Coinbase. Coinbase is a crypto wallet, essentially, helps you trade to get different things. We're not going to get into the Bitcoin or crypto world, but we are going to get into the policies that this company adopted that were revolutionary almost in Silicon Valley at the time, and see how that's working out. We're going to talk about corporate scandals and like who's really in charge or what really happens during a corporate scandal, and then who gets hurt. Does it hurt the company? Does it hurt the shareholders? What happens? We're going to talk about an octopus farm being unethical. I think that ethics are something that we teach all the time, but they're not put into practice. So, for instance, you say, well, you're an organization, and you can say, we really, really care about company ethics. Okay. Oh, and so how do we care? We will demonstrate that we care because we will bring in someone to talk to our employees about ethics. Maybe we'll do a short quiz of employees before they come into the office to work for us. But that's about as far as it goes. Once you actually get into the organization and you're working, ethics kind of go right out the window. Hopefully we're going to get to the story about a company birthday party. You'd think that's a totally innocuous event. Well, it led to a lawsuit. And I thought that was kind of fascinating. There's a question about how much salary should you get as a young college graduate. Maybe 6 figures isn't the right number. And we'll go over some other things if we get to it. I don't know if we will. It just depends on how far we get. Now, I do have a story, and I did want to go over it with you, and that is I had a buyer call me, a potential home buyer call me, and they said, "Hey, my name is so-and-so." I said, "Oh, well, hello, so-and-so." And they said, "I got a job and I work for this company." And I said, "Oh, that company. I know the owner of that company. I went to school with that man, and he is a wonderful fellow. And I'm so happy." And this is true. I'm so happy for the success that he's had in life because he was a wonderful fellow then. And he's a wonderful, I'm sure he's a wonderful fellow now, although I haven't talked to him in 25 years. And so the employee of the organization said, "Oh, you know so-and-so?" I said, "Well, I mean, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he was a wonderful fellow. And I wish him nothing but the best." And he said, "You know what? He's a great boss to work for. He just gets it. He is the epitome of what you want in a manager. Okay. A good boss." And what are some of those qualities? Well, one of the qualities that I like with bosses is this some level of authenticity. Okay. Meaning, like, let's just say someone's an electrician. And so they work as an electrician for years, save up enough money to start their own company. And then they go from there. And then they're doing the bids. They're the ones that are hiring new employees. They're the ones that have had the experience, and they're working in their quote unquote wheelhouse. Okay. That's the sign of a good leader. It's much different than someone who is brought in from another organization, stays for 2 years, gets the resume padded, and then goes to another job and does the same thing. Those people are disgusting. I don't know how you would, like, let's say you're someone and you've worked for an organization for 15 years and they bring in a new manager to sit directly above you, and they start telling you how to do your job and tell you you're a terrible employee, and it makes you want to leave. Like, why do we have to go through these kinds of things? I know of an organization where the woman that is working at the company is a doer. And I respect those people like you wouldn't believe. I feel like they're even better than I am in every sense of the way, as far as there's just certain people in organizations, if you're lucky enough to hire one, they just get stuff done. They don't ask questions. They don't want to have meetings. They just want to get stuff done. And they'll do it right, and it'll be the best work you can get done, and they will do it efficiently. But you must stay away from them. You must leave them alone. If you try to micromanage that personality, they will bite you. They will leave because you are an impediment to them getting their work done. I found that to be a quality. If you can find one of those people, you should get them in your organization any way possible. Those people that get it done aren't necessarily MBAs. Those people that get it done aren't necessarily top in their class in college. They may not have even gone to college, but they will run circles around someone who doesn't know how to get it done. And so that was another thing that I was fascinated by, is this concept of, can this person get it done? If I hire this person, can they get it done? That's all I really want to know as a manager. So we'll talk about good bosses, bad bosses, things of that nature. And then I want to take a moment now, we're 29 minutes in, and I want to offer my first apology for our employment live stream, nature of our employment live stream. I made a mistake. On Saturday night, I did a live stream. And if you go back, so this is 4/25/2022. If you go back to the 4/23/2022 live stream, you're going to see something that's embarrassing, but I'm leaving it up because I'm not perfect. And that is, I was falling asleep during my live stream. I don't know if you get food comas. We call them food comas here at the house, but you eat a lot of food or you eat a certain kind of food and all of a sudden all you want to do is go to sleep. Well, that happened to me during my live stream. I started the live stream out so strong. I was in such good shape. And then unfortunately, as I kept going, and my wife just actually texted. She had a food coma that got to her. But anyway, as I started the stream on Saturday night, I was a little stressed. There were some things going on in my life that are stressful. I'm not going to get into that because it's like personal, but it wasn't about injuries. It wasn't about, how do I put it? It wasn't, it was bad. It's hard for me, but it's probably not hard for everybody. So that's why I'm not going to bring it up. But anyway, I started and like I am here now, and I have these lights that come and shine on me, and I do a live stream in the morning, and I started reading this article. And as I was reading the article, I was just getting more and more tired. And what I do in my live stream is when I read an article, if a thought pops into my head, I'll stop the article and I'll talk about it. At one point in time during the live stream, if you can get to it, there's this statement that comes out. It says, I'm reading along and all of a sudden I say, Chris Wallace wrestles potato chips. I was literally asleep and just talking at the same time. So then, I mean, it went off the rails right about the last 15 minutes. So if you're bored, if you ever want to see something bizarre on a live stream, watch that part because I am totally gone. Like my eyes are closed and I'm just reading like and making no sense. There were some words in the article that I just flat out didn't say right. And you can see the article on my page, like you can see it on the screen and you're like, wow, this guy can't read. So anyway, do I apologize for what happened? Not really. I think we have to be real. I think that's the most important thing on the live stream. So it did happen. I'm leaving it up. If I was concerned when I went to my room, like, did I say something offensive? Because that's the thing that scares me. But I wanted to just take a moment that's simple. Like, look, we always catch people saying bad things in our society. Okay. And because we can record them now, and because everything's, a picture on someone's phone, people make mistakes, people misspeak, and they are branded for the rest of their lives as terrible people. They're not allowed to have a job. It's a terrible, terrible thing that I think is a fairly new phenomenon in the United States. I'd say fairly new being maybe 1970s forward. So with that, if I ever say something offensive, if I ever say something wrong, I hope that you can give me the grace to understand that I will misspeak. I will change my opinion over time, depending on what I see. And I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to be penalized for my speech. I'm going to leave it. So I want you to understand that if I say something wrong, if I'm incorrect in my statement and you want to correct me in the chat, that's totally cool. No problem. I'm good with that. I'll listen to it. We're going to have disagreements, but I'm just not interested in this gotcha game where you punish someone for something that they said when like literally I was half asleep. And you say, well, you shouldn't be doing the show then if you're half asleep. Well, I didn't know it was going to happen, and I'm not going to shut it off once I started. So that's that. I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment here, a little bit of thought experiment, and just explain it like this. What if you don't know someone, but you see articles written about the person that they're a terrible person? Like, let's just say they hunt endangered animals. Okay. I don't particularly like hunting anything, but so let's say, hey, everyone, I want you to know this is John Schenk, and he hunts, animals that are on the endangered list. Well, you're going to have an opinion about me, and you don't know anything about me. Well, the same thing with my live stream. Look, if I speak every night for an hour, that's thousands of words over and over and over again. There's going to be millions of opportunities, therefore, for me to make a mistake on any number of things. And if I feel like I've made a mistake, I'll correct it. If I misspeak, I'll certainly try to correct it if it's brought to my attention. But you know what? I'm not going to live my life in fear. If I say something that's offensive or doesn't come across right, I'm just not going to. I'm not going to stay up at night worrying about it. If the channel gets booted, so be it. So be it. We're going to do it the way I want to do it, and that's all there is to it. Let's now, after saying all that, let's get into this Coinbase thing. I thought this was interesting. Let me get to where I need to get. And we go here, and we go, here we go. And you should see it now. And I'm right down there at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to get over here. It says, Coinbase CEO discourages politics at work, offers generous severance to employees who want to quit. Now, I am one of those people that's very concerned with corporations and the government conspiring together to create an environment or to create a country that I don't particularly want to be a part of. I think that it's gotten really, really bad. I think that I've watched major American corporations court the Chinese dollar, and in doing so, encourage fascism in the United States, which I find to be terrible. So I don't like the quote unquote woke agenda. I don't think it has any place in corporate boards or corporations in general. I don't think that employee activism is anything to be proud of. Again, you're going to work to earn a salary. Do your job. I know that sounds bad, maybe even crass, but I don't think that work is a place for the political discussion, because like in an organization, say you have 1,000 people. Well, if we just look at just general demographics, you're probably going to have out of that people, 49% are going to think one way about any given topic. 49% are going to think the exact opposite way about any given topic. And there's like 1%, one or 2% that really swing the balance back and forth. And it shouldn't need to be necessary to do that. If you're a company, to me, like let's just say you produce shoes, then you should be producing shoes. You should concentrate all of your energies on shoes, not on odd political statements. I feel like most companies that do that are doing that for the attention that they can draw to themselves. It's really kind of sick. And it's really a lot of times to draw attention to themselves for one thing while trying to hide what they do on a different thing. There's a certain shoe manufacturer that I'm convinced is just an absolute disgusting organization. And I want, I don't wear their products. I don't buy their products, but I know they're very popular, and it's quite, I don't know, depressing that people would even allow that sort of thing. So anyway, let's get into this. It says the key points, which I don't think I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to get the article. So I just tricked you. Okay, here we go. Now this came out last year, and I'm okay with that. It didn't have to be right now. I got to check something. I'm sorry. But I think it's so important. I think it's worth talking about in our nature of employment. So here we go. Coinbase is offering to pay employees who decide to quit the cryptocurrency company after discouraged employee activism and discussing of political and social issues at work. So let's just go on this first paragraph. My own personal opinion, with employees, with vendors, with people in the organization, as a leader, you must have empathy for your employees. You must have empathy for your peers. Okay. That means asking simple questions during the day, like, hey, how are you? Hey, did you have a good weekend? I believe that that's important to an organization. I believe that some type of camaraderie, some sort of universal mission is a good thing, is a positive thing. I do not have a problem with some chit chat at work. Okay. Now that depends. I suspect that if you're working in a tech firm, those people probably aren't talking to anybody. And I'm not saying that you're required to be friends with everyone. I'm not saying if you have a wedding, you have to invite everyone. But what I am saying is that, I think there is something to that fabric where you can have empathy for others in the workforce if you talked to them and get to know them as people. I don't think that you need to be asking their politics. I think that's kind of weird myself, because when I was a kid, we didn't really discuss politics at all. And the political parties of today are vastly, vastly different than the political parties that I remember as I was growing up. I mean, vastly different. So anyway, let's continue. CEO Brian Armstrong told the Coinbase staff in an email that the company would offer severance packages for anyone who doesn't feel comfortable with this new direction. The pay packages range from 4 to 6 months, depending on how long an employee has been with the company. Quoted, "Life is too short to work at a company that you aren't excited about," which I totally agree, Armstrong said in the email, which was previously reported by the blog. Hopefully this package helps create a win-win outcome for those who choose to opt out. The message came days after Armstrong published a blog post clarifying the company's stance of non-engagement on social and political issues. Specifically, Armstrong said that the company won't debate causes or political candidates internally, and we will not engage when the issues are unrelated to our core mission because we believe impact only comes with focus. The cryptocurrency company is laser focused on the use of digital currencies and on profits, Armstrong said. Now, I agree with that. Like, so what am I focused on? I am focused on helping people buy houses and having people sell houses, like helping them do those things. Okay. I'm not focused on if there's a riot downtown. Like, that's not my place. That's not my place. Now, if I have an employee whose child is involved in the riot and is uncomfortable, is having an issue, then I go to that employee and I say, look, I know you're having issues here. This is a terrible situation. If you need time off, if you need something to get through, that's fine. You need a moment to yourself. I get that. Okay. To me, that's being apolitical. I'm not saying that whatever the person is fighting for is wrong or right. I'm saying I'm recognizing that this person has feelings. This person is dealing with this. It's difficult for them. Maybe it's a dangerous situation. And I think that that's the right way to handle it. What I don't think is the right way to handle it is to say, I'm totally in agreement with your protest of a protester child. I'm going to change everything in the company. We're going to have banners and flags to post about how we are totally 100% in on this topic. I don't think that's necessary in the workforce. I don't think that that's right in the workforce. I don't think that maximizes shareholder value, and I think it makes many employees uncomfortable. So let's continue. It says the co-founder pointed to internal strife at Silicon Valley giants such as Google and Facebook that engaged in a wide variety of social activism, even those unrelated to what the company does. While I think these efforts are well-intentioned, and I do believe that most people are very well-intentioned in their activism. I do believe that. They have the potential to destroy a lot of value at most companies, both by being a distraction and by creating internal division, which I agree with that too. I believe most employees don't want to work in these divisive environments. It's absolutely true. If I know that my boss is, say, a Democrat, okay, I don't feel real comfortable, okay? Same as if I think that they're a Republican, or if I know that they're Republican, I don't feel as comfortable. So I don't really want to deal with this stuff at work. I'm much more happy to talk about issues, like, hey, did you have a good weekend? Yes. Observational things. Hey, I noticed your arm is in a sling. Is there anything I can do to help? Not who's going to win California, and should there be a runoff in California? Not, anything else. Not anything else. And as we've radicalized students over time, this is going to continue to be an issue in most large corporations where they have serious problems with HR and employee retention and all kinds of issues. So I believe, he says, he's quoted, I believe most employees don't want to work in these divisive environments. The approach stands apart from many Silicon Valley companies, which have embraced social justice causes in the wake of widespread protests for racial injustice this year. For instance, Google this week announced an extensive $310 million program to bolster diversity and inclusion at the company as part of a lawsuit settlement with shareholders who alleged the company did not take complaints of sexual harassment and discrimination seriously enough. Now, have you heard that about Google, that they are not taking complaints of sexual harassment and discrimination seriously enough? And here's what I really want to kind of in this paragraph, that's fascinating part is, look, it says Google this week announced an extensive $310 million program to bolster diversity and inclusion. okay, which has nothing to do with sexual harassment. See, they kind of take the ball and they hide it, and then they put it in another spot. Let me just check the chat, see if anybody's in there. No, let's continue. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, meanwhile, recently tightened restrictions on discussing political and social issues on the company's internal message boards, but stopped short of discouraging or banning them entirely. Armstrong himself was outspoken in the wake of George Floyd's death and tweeted his support for the Black Lives Matter movement. I've decided to speak up. It's a shame that this even needs to be said in this day and age, but racism, police brutality, and unequal justice are unequivocally wrong, and we need to all to work to eliminate them from society. He said in a series of tweets. So to me, that's absolutely political, and it's absolutely hypocritical as well to introduce a policy in your organization that you yourself don't follow. Coinbase's new policy immediately sparked debate on Twitter. Some, such as investor Paul Graham, applauded the position and predicted most successful companies will follow Coinbase's lead. And then others suggested it would drive away tech talent and customers. Anyway, the San Francisco company is the largest U.S. cryptocurrency trading platform. It has raised more than $500 million in private funding, and great. It's got an $8 billion valuation. Anyway, what do you think? What do I think about what you say? Well, what do you think about this policy? Let's just say specifically what's in the article, and that is it's discouraging employee activism and discussing of political and social issues at work. I mean, can you imagine? Let's say you're set for a 10 o'clock meeting with people in your department, and let's say you've got a major problem in the organization. There's some sort of part that has malfunctioned, and you need to find a way to fix it. And you've got all the best people on board to try and solve this problem or try to get around this problem and get it under control. And instead, you spend the entire meeting putting that to the back burner and talking about social justice. It's like, where are your priorities there? I mean, while social justice is, of course, important, you're working for an organization that's got to get this widget fixed. What are you doing? What are you doing? So, I don't know. I don't talk about politics at work. I do talk to the people, though. Like, how are you? How's your family? I do care. Some people would shy away from that. And I get it. I mean, I understand. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing, to perhaps make a bungle. Like, for instance, I was at the dentist today, and the teeth cleaner lady, I don't know what they're called. And it could have been a man too. I don't want to be sexist, but the last time I was in the office a year and a half ago, her husband had back problems, severe back problems. And so I remembered that. And I asked her, hey, how's your husband's back problems? Well, she said, well, he got over that, but now he's had a stroke. Well, he could have very well died. And I would have felt horrible. How's your husband's back? Well, he's dead. That would be a terrible conversation to have, but it starts with me having empathy to begin with. You have these conversations at work in the sense like, somebody's got their kids. Hey, how are your kids? And they say, well, one's in rehab, hooked on drugs, and they ended up at the hospital, and it's a really bad situation. They haven't died, but they're miserable and they want to kill themselves. It's like, you did care. You had empathy for the person. And then perhaps because it's such a hurtful conversation, they feel like you're incorrectly prying into their private life. It's odd when you're trying to show empathy, and then this makes this turn like this. So this is a fascinating thing. Political and social issues at work, avoiding them whenever possible. I think that's a reasonable question. a reasonable thing to do. So let's move on. I don't know where I got this article from. I don't know what it's about. It says why big firms are rarely toppled by corporate scandals. And here's new research. Now, I don't know if this is an advertisement. I don't know anything about it. Like I said, I just saw it. I thought it was an interesting headline. I thought we might want to take a look at it. And so here we go. It says everyone makes mistakes, and that includes the world's biggest companies, no question, which are reliably prone to gaffes, errors of judgment, and wrongdoing. Some of these moments could even be labeled as corporate scandals. The kind of incident which shoves firms into the spotlights and places their activities under detailed public scrutiny. But do these events do lasting damage? Does an oil spill, fraudulent activity, or other unethical behavior really affect highly valued reputation, sales, and market value? Our research suggests not. In fact, our analysis of the effects of a wide variety of business scandals shows that they only rarely is the effect as severe as we might imagine. Now, there was a company, I think it was called Air something or other, Value Jet. That was a company that had, I think it was Value Jet. They had air tanks in their airplanes that they were transporting as cargo. One of them blew up the plane. I don't think that company is still in business at all. I think that's the way that goes. ExxonMobil, the Valdez spilled. They settled. They're still in business. But how many companies are the world's largest, producers of oil and natural gas? Or at one point in time, I suspect they've been beaten out by somebody. But anyway, I think it does depend on the market position. I think it depends on the type of product you're selling. I always talk about Gillette and how much I hate them for their ads, disparaging men while trying to sell them razors. I mean, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my lifetime. So, let's go from there. Instead, it seems that the public has a strong tendency to forget and move on. And even an initial unplanned and at the time unwanted attention can lead to greater brand awareness, proving the old adage that any publicity is good publicity. Let me tell you one thing that I've learned from our nature of employment that may be surprising to you, and I was blown away by it. Here's what I learned, okay? If I make a title of a live stream, company has ethics issues, okay? No one will click. If I write Nike has ethics issues, I get all kinds of clicks. What is that? That's the effect of their brand. Their brand actually draws clicks, even in things that have nothing to do with shoes. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So all of you out there that are thinking of starting your own YouTube channels, understand I've had limited success on YouTube, but one thing I have learned is that brands, people search for brands. Your name or your show will come up with those brands being searched, and you will get traffic. It's a heck of a lot better than a vanilla title about whatever you want to go with. Okay, so let's continue. Take the recent furor over Spotify. Now you can see that we're in a different country because they spelled furor completely differently than us. In early 2022, the world's largest music streaming service was accused by science and health professionals of offering a platform for misinformation about COVID. Now, those science and health professionals, I believe some of them were veterinarians. Not to say that veterinarians are not health professionals. Some of them were graduate assistants. I think that the better thing to say would be accused by some science and health professionals. Okay, because I would say that not all, or even close to all. I would be surprised if even a majority. So what happened next? At first, there was a dip in the stock market price of about 12% when artists including Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, and Graham Nash announced they were withdrawing their music from the service. My understanding is that Graham Nash didn't even own his own catalog anymore, so that really didn't matter. This financial hiccup was followed by an immediate stock price rebound that is likely to climb beyond pre-scandal levels. Spotify went on to add disclaimers to its COVID-related content and remove some content. So in the long term, this will probably turn out to be nothing more than a slight bump in the road for Spotify. As a business, it provides a hugely popular service and boasts, I hate boasting anything, 172 million premium subscribers around the world, 28 million of whom joined in 2020. How many of them will cancel their subscriptions and forego access to their carefully curated playlist because Young and Mitchell have decided to walk? Well, if you're 90 years old and listening to Joni Mitchell, I suspect you will be upset. But are you really on Spotify? Is that really your audience at that point? I don't think so. And while it is true that the company's business model relies on musicians and other content providers, the reality is that most artists cannot afford to be not on their platform. To not be on the giving Spotify the benefit of the doubt, it's entirely possible. It made an honest mistake and underestimated how sensitive some people have become to discussions about the pandemic. Customers will probably make peace with this. I agree. If someone has an issue, that's kind of on them. Especially when it's content hosted on a platform. Okay. So for instance, like on YouTube, if you say something ignorant on YouTube, it is not right as a creator to blame YouTube. It's important to blame the creator. Okay. That's where I'm at. Now, I'm not for banning anyone just because of the creator saying something that's not according to the flavor of the day. But anyway, let's continue. It says, likewise, Netflix will doubtlessly survive recent controversies over some of its content, such as with the British comedian Jimmy Carr's comments about the Holocaust. With so many subscribers around the world attracted by the service's wide range of content, Netflix is another example of an industry giant that can shrug things off. Well, they're having trouble. They've got Cuties, was a terrible, terrible thing on their site. Their stock price just got hammered the other day because they're no longer growing. It was a growth story, and once it stops being a growth story, then what kind of story is it? Their answer to that was they're going to try to watch out for people stealing passwords or sharing passwords, which isn't really that wasn't the problem. But anyway, and remember Facebook's market collapse after it was linked to the personal data of millions of users being collected by the political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica. Don't feel that bad if you don't. It lasted about 7 seconds. Okay, maybe 7 days. The company then recovered all of the US $134 billion it had previously lost in market value. Yeah, I don't even get did you not think that Facebook itself is taking all of your information and selling it to others? I mean, really, you'd have to be living under a rock. Law and disorder. So what makes some scandals stick? In our research, we found that only certain scandals tend to have significant negative effects on corporate reputations and performance. One apparently vital element is a company being found liable in a court of law. The legal process gives weight and depth to a scandal that might otherwise have quickly disappeared. And when you read that, understand now why political people are being put on trial often. People involved in politics are being put in a legal limbo because of this, the negative effect of negative effect of their reputation in the court of law. If you can just get someone to trial, okay, if you can just make the allegation and file a suit, you've already painted that person with a negative brush. So anyway. Then if you can be found liable, that's even better. But just the accusation alone and following court case application is enough in my sense to chill and cause issues with an organization. The Volkswagen's emission scandal, for example, started in 2015. 7 years later, the company is still negotiating settlements and class action lawsuits brought against it for cheating on emissions tests. The company's share price dropped 30% immediately after the scandal. It has improved since they moved towards electric vehicles. You didn't need to put that in there. And Volkswagen's reputation is still tarnished by the event as it continues to attract significant regulatory scrutiny affecting its status among investors. Let's continue. Similarly, years after being found responsible for Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010, BP is still paying the price of its negligence as it continues to be embroiled in many lawsuits. And following regulatory intervention, German financial services provider Wirecard is not even around anymore to tell the story of how $1.9 billion disappeared from its balance sheet. That's kind of funny. That's kind of, well, here's this thing. I think so it says BP is still paying the price of its negligence. Okay. You can hurt a business by continually suing it. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. You can take the eye off of the company focus if you can sue the hell out of it. That might be what causes companies to do poorly after a scandal. Yet without corporate culpability determined by a court of law, very few accusations stick even in the face of media scrutiny. My own personal opinion is allegations and accusations are very, very dangerous, and we throw them around all the time like candy. And it really just injures people. You never get your reputation back, even if you win your lawsuit. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Without clear evidence of harm caused to a group of people, there is very little in the way of measurable negative impact or demand for compensation for the damage caused. As consumers, we often like to signal moral superiority and enjoy some of the drama provided by the corporate discomfort of a juicy scandal. But our research found that people's response to a company is driven by more mundane considerations. There are price, convenience, loyalty, ease of use, and habit, and there aren't many scandals considered quite scandalous enough to make us change any of those. For example, Amazon, they treat some of their workers terribly. There's no question. Okay. They do some terrible things, especially in the, like where they look in their own internal documents or their own internal records to see what's selling, and then create knockoff Amazon brands to basically take those other, the inventing companies out of commission easily. That's not very nice, but that's the way Amazon is. I'm not going to stop using Amazon because of it, though. And so that's all I'm going to do tonight. That's where I'm going to stay. We didn't get as far as I'd hoped. Maybe I rambled. I don't know. But if you've made it this far, honestly, would you consider subscribing? You don't ever have to watch another video again. I would really like to get a lot of subscribers. I know it's a boomer thing. It's like followers on Instagram. Like I get a follower on Instagram like every day. And it's like, it's not the same. I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't matter that much to me. But subscribers on YouTube, it does matter. For me, this platform has been very hard to learn. It's very time consuming to put out content. And I would like to be able to say, I have 1,000 subscribers and I've been monetized. So if you get a chance, would you please hit the subscribe button? I don't ask every day. I've been asking more often because it seems like the more I ask, the more people are responding to doing that, to hitting the subscribe button. So please consider that. And with that, I'm going to head on out. I wanted to say again, thank you for watching. If you're watching this in a year from now, I should still be around. Hit me up. I'm on Twitter. And if you want to talk about employment, as an interview or something like that, we've got StreamYard. We can go wherever we want to. So with that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. I will see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Be there.